Pop quiz. Name a general who defeated the Mongol Empire. You can't, can you? Most people know Genghis Khan. They know the Mongols conquered everything, from China to Europe. They know the Mongol arm was unstoppable. The largest contiguous empire. But ask who stuffed them, and the room goes silent.
Here's the answer. A Vietnamese general named Trần Hưng Đạo.
Not once. Not twice. 3 times.
Between 1258 and 1288, while the Mongols were crushing everyone, this man defeated them.
He destroyed Mongol armies, killed Mongol princes, and sent the invincible horde fleeing.
His masterpiece, the Battle of Bạch Dang River in 1288, is one of history's most brilliant tactical victories. It's studied in Vietnamese military academies today. It should be taught alongside Cannae, Agincourt, and Waterloo.
But it isn't. Outside of this room, almost nobody knows his name.
Trần Hưng Đạo. This is his story.
The story of the general who did what Alexander the Great, the Abbasid Caliphate, all failed to do. Stop the Mongols! Stop the Mongols!
Part 1. The Mongol Terror. To understand his achievement, you need to understand what he was facing. The Mongol Empire wasn't just another army. It was a military phenomenon.
By 1279, the Mongols controlled 24 million square kilometers of territory.
Mongol cavalry could cover 130 kilometers per day. European armies moved 25 kilometers.
Each soldier carried dried meat and mare's milk. They could campaign for months without supply lines.
Combined arms warfare. Light cavalry for harassment, heavy cavalry for shock, siege engineers from China.
Ruthlessness. Cities that resisted were exterminated.
Completely.
The message was clear. Surrender immediately or die.
Leadership. Mongol generals were promoted by merit, not birth. The best tactical minds commanded.
Between 1206-1260, the Mongols never lost a major campaign, conquering Jin, Khwarezmian Empire, Kievan Rus. 1258 sacked Baghdad, ending the Abbasid Caliphate. They were militarily, psychologically, and strategically dominant. There was one type of terrain the Mongols struggled with: dense jungle and river deltas. Mongol power came from horses.
Rice paddies bog down horses. Dense jungle makes cavalry charges impossible. Rivers fragment armies.
Tropical diseases kill men and horses. Guerrilla fighters disappear into vegetation.
Vietnam was strategically critical. It controlled the southern border of China and the gateway to Southeast Asia.
Kublai Khan could not accept this, so he sent armies south. 3 times.
Part 2. The First Invasion. In 1257, Mongol envoys arrived. Their message was simple: submit.
Or be destroyed. The Trần dynasty faced an impossible choice.
Surrender, or face the army that had conquered half the known world. Vietnam chose option 2, fight.
Trần Hưng Đạo was born into the royal family. He could focus entirely on warfare.
He studied Chinese texts, Vietnamese history, geography, and guerrilla tactics. By 1257, he was supreme commander. The Mongol invasion force numbered around 30,000 to 40,000 troops. They invaded from the north. Vietnamese initial strategy: meet them in open battle. Result: disaster. Mongol cavalry slaughtered the infantry.
The royal capital Thăng Long fell in December 1257. the Trần dynasty fled south. It looked like another Mongol victory. But Trần Hưng Đạo was just getting started. Hưng Đạo realized you cannot beat the Mongols at their own game. Open battle equals defeat.
New strategy. Abandon cities. Burn rice, destroy supplies, poison wells, make the land feed nothing.
Guerrilla warfare. Hit supply convoys. Disappear into jungle. Stretch them thin.
Mobilize the entire population. Every village a resistance cell. They understood cities are replaceable. By early 1258, the Mongols held empty cities in hostile territory. The countryside was active.
Holding Vietnam was costing more men than it was worth.
In late 1258, the Mongols withdrew. Hưng Đạo struck. The withdrawal turned into a rout.
The first lesson, don't fight them where they're strong. Make them fight where they're weak. This wasn't just military genius, it was strategic genius.
Part 3. The second invasion. By 1284, Kublai Khan had conquered.
This time, he sent an army of 500,000 men, the largest invasion force in Southeast Asian history.
The aging warrior. Hưng Đạo was 56-57, but he remembered the lessons of 1258. The strategy hadn't changed.
Northern invasion force, 300,000. Southern invasion force, 200,000 by sea. Total encirclement.
Hưng Đạo again abandoned the capital. The Mongols occupied it in January 1285. But they'd conquered an empty city. Again.
The fundamental problem. 500,000 soldiers eat a lot of food. The granaries were empty.
Disease spread. Dysentery, malaria, tropical thieves. The occupation was collapsing. The southern invasion force faced the same problems, plus hostile Cham guerrillas.
In late 1285, with the Mongol army weakened, Hưng Đạo struck. The attack was fierce and coordinated.
Vietnamese forces used fire ships, ambush tactics, and flawless knowledge of local terrain.
They broke and fled north. The retreat became a massacre. Hưng Đạo had prepared ambush sites along every route.
The 500,000-strong invasion force was destroyed. Kublai Khan's greatest invasion ended in catastrophic failure.
The second lesson proved the first wasn't luck. Hưng Đạo developed a systematic method for defeating superior forces.
Strategic retreat, guerrilla warfare, logistics warfare, environmental warfare, patience, decisive strike.
This was modern warfare before modern warfare existed. But Kublai Khan would try one more time.
Part 4. The third invasion. In 1287, Kublai Khan prepared a third invasion.
The commander was Prince Toran, Kublai's son-in-law. Goal: destroy the Vietnamese army in one decisive battle.
The aging master. He was 59-60. And he was planning his masterpiece.
They captured Thăng Long in January 1288. But this time, Prince Toran kept his forces concentrated. Crucially, he secured the naval supply route. Mongol ships controlled the Bach Dang River. For weeks, Vietnamese forces had been planting iron-tipped wooden stakes, angled upward, just beneath the surface.
In April 1288, Vietnamese forces made a calculated mistake and retreated toward the Bach Dang River.
The Mongol navy pursued, thinking they had the Vietnamese cornered. Phase 1. Lure them upriver during high tide.
Phase 2. Vietnamese ships retreated downstream, following the falling tide.
Phase 3. As the tide fell, the iron-tipped stakes emerged. The Mongol ships struck the barrier at full speed.
Hulls impaled. Ships capsized. Within an hour, the entire fleet was trapped.
Phase 4. Vietnamese forces attacked from all sides. Total annihilation.
Prince Toran barely escaped, fleeing a small boat. The Mongol navy was annihilated.
With their navy destroyed, the land army had no choice. Retreat. Hưng Đạo had prepared for this too.
General Omar was captured and executed. Prince Thoran reached the border with only a fraction of his force. The Battle of Bạch Dằng River is one of the most brilliant tactical victories in military history.
Perfect use of terrain, perfect use of timing, perfect deception, perfect execution. This was military genius.
Hannibal at Cannae, Caesar at Alesia, Trần Hưng Đạo at Bạch Đằng deserves to be in this company.
After 1288, the Mongols never invaded Vietnam again. The Trần dynasty would rule for another century.
Anh Trần Hưng Đạo became a national legend. The story continues in Part 5.
Part 5, the strategic genius. What made him great? He understood he couldn't fight symmetrically.
He changed the type of war, conventional to guerrilla, open battle to ambush and raid. This is what modern military theorists call asymmetric warfare, fighting in a way that negates enemy advantages.
Great generals focus on strategy. Hưng Đạo focused on logistics, making the enemy unable to fight.
He turned Vietnam's environment, disease, heat, terrain, into a weapon against the invaders.
The hardest thing in war is patience. He waited for the enemy to weaken. Waited for morale to break.
He mobilized an entire nation. Every farmer became a scout. This is modern People's War.
Hưng Đạo studied previous victory against Chinese invaders, replicating Ngô Quyền stake victory from 938 AD. The Mongols' greatest weapon was psychological terror. But Hưng Đạo broke the spell. He showed they could be beaten.
Most ancient generals were good at 1 or 2 levels. Hưng Đạo mastered tactics, strategy, and operations.
Part 6. Why nobody knows him. The paradox. He defeated the Mongols 3 times. So why isn't he famous?
Harsh truth. Western military history focuses heavily on European and Middle Eastern warfare.
From a Eurocentric view, 13th century Vietnam was far away and not important to European history.
Reason 3. Language barrier. His campaigns were recorded in classical Vietnamese and Chinese texts, untranslated until the 20th century. Vietnam's later wars obscured historical greatness. Western narratives often frame victories as lucky or insurgency.
Reason 5. No personal Rithing survived. We don't have his memoirs. He depends on others to tell his story.
In Vietnam, he is worshipped as Đức Thánh Trần, but this can ghettoize him as only a Vietnamese hero.
Hannibal used encirclement. Trần Hưng Đạo defeated the Mongols 3 times using strategic exhaustion. Napoleon is famous for maneuver warfare. Hưng Đạo created asymmetric doctrine and logistics warfare.
Wellington defeated Napoleon. Hưng Đạo defeated the largest empire in history. 3 separate times.
Genghis Khan conquered half the known world. Trần Hưng Đạo is one of the few who stopped him.
This is changing. Military historians specializing in asymmetric warfare are now studying Trần Hưng Đạo. Books analyzing his campaigns are emerging. Slowly, the world is learning about the general who defeated the Mongols.
But he deserves more recognition, much more. Let's look at his legacy in Part 7.
Part Vini, the legacy. Trần Hưng Đạo died around 1300, having secured Vietnam's independence. His strategic principles became doctrine. Use geography, fight asymmetrically, mobilize the people, attack logistics.
General Vo Nguyen Giap studied the campaigns of Trần Hưng Đạo using similar guerrilla warfare and logistics to fight the French.
An unbroken line of strategic thinking from 1258 to 1975 flows from this genius.
In Vietnam today, Trần Hưng Đạo is everywhere. Streets, schools, temples, currency.
For Vietnamese people, he represents never surrendering to foreign domination and strategy defeating numbers.
But Trần Hưng Đạo story isn't just for Vietnam. It's a universal lesson. The underdog can win.
David beat Goliath not through miracles, but because he fought his own way, sling and stone.
What is your Mongol army? A competitor, a system, a personal challenge that feels insurmountable.
You don't have to fight them on their terms. Find your asymmetric advantage. Change the battlefield.
Fight them where they're weak, and suddenly they're not so invincible. Conclusion: the forgotten genius.
We make movies about Alexander. We ignore the general who did what none of them could: defeat the Mongols.
He's not famous because history is written by those with the loudest voices and most widely read languages.
This needs to change. We must spread the knowledge of this genius.
Why or mission? Share this story. Tag, hashtag Trần Hưng Đạo, hashtag Forgotten Genius.
Comment below. What's YOOR Mongol army? Let's hear it. Apply the lesson. Find your asymmetric advantage. Change the battlefield. Strike where they're weak. In 1241, the Mongols invaded Europe. History remembers. In 1258, 1285...
Now you know. Share it. Teach it. Remember it. The Mongols weren't invincible.
They just hadn't met Trần Hưng Đạo yet.
His legacy lives on, a beacon of strength against the shadows. We must remember the price of freedom.
Time erodes all things, yet the spirit of this guardian remains unbroken, watching over the silent centuries.
And so, as the sun sets on our journey, we find ourselves in this final moment of silence.
Hưng Đạo, a name carved in the hearts of the people, now returning to the silence from which it came. This is the Bạch Dang River, a place of profound peace now, but once the site of
the physical remnant of the genius.
They called it the poisonous jungle. As the first riders pushed through the border in 1257, the silence itself became the enemy. The Mongol army was successfully harassed on their retreat along this path, a visualization of the bleeding of the invading force.
This was the true cost of environmental warfare. As the heat haze shimmered, even the mightiest warriors succumbed. Half a million strong, the Mongol horde was a terrifying sight, yet spread thin across the steppes.
As demonstrated here, the effectiveness of disappearing into the local environment was paramount for the guerrilla fighter.
The mighty Jin dynasty walls, towering and seemingly impenetrable, now flew the colors of the Mongols. The warrior consulted the maps, but the reality of their position was stark. They were dangerously exposed, weeks from the nearest supply depot.
The Mongols controlling architecture, but not life.
This was no chaotic rout, but an organized and determined retreat. The Vietnamese royal family moved south.
The state endured, while the invaders suffered.
Utilizing swift!
Seeing the disarray, Hưng Đạo gave the signal. The enemy had reached its lowest ebb, and the tigers of Đại Việt were unleashed.
Here, in the mud and the rain, lay the broken military prestige of the Mongol horde. The golden falcon is broken.
How could they fail? A mere island! Prepare the next mobilization immediately!
This time, Togun would not repeat the mistakes of the past. With 300,000 men and a revitalized fleet, the third invasion began.
This time, the Mongol fleet would not be deterred.
They anchored across the mouth of the Bạch Dang, securing the sea lanes. The preparation work continues, adapting the famous trap to the new conditions.
The fleet moves slowly against the current, a delicate dance between man and river in the early morning mist.
Coordinated power unleashed. The Mongol fleet moves as one, anticipating an easy victory against those who defied the Khan.
The Mongols' speed and confidence become their greatest liability.
The invisible, lethal clock is ticking down for the pursuers.
The 7th. The massive wooden hull splintered violently upon impact. The submerged stakes tore through the ship and
The afternoon sun illuminates the full extent of the catastrophe. Our naval power.
The Vietnamese forces launched a devastating attack, trapping the enemy fleet in the river.
With the fleet destroyed, the sea supply road was gone. The army was stranded, two-landed, realizing their vulnerability to
Exploiting the narrow, dusty terrain, the Vietnamese light cavalry executed perfect hit-and-run attacks, systematically harassing the disorganized Mongol column.
The Trần dynasty had successfully repelled the invaders once more. This captured helmet, a symbol of the great.
Synthesizing the enduring pattern of victory, we look at Hưng Đạo strategic principles. 1.
Vietnam's geography, once again shown as the ultimate defender.
The Art of War by Sun Tzu provided the foundation upon which Hưng Đạo built his own strategies, uniting the classical military traditions of the era.
The fleet must anchor here, by the mangroves, unseen.
And if the tide turns earlier than expected, my lord?
Then we adapt, but the main thrust remains.
Written in a time of peril, this proclamation galvanized the Đại Việt forces, inspiring unwavering loyalty and fierce determination.
This engagement demonstrates the critical importance of attacking logistics. A remote, thinly defended convoy is easing.
Here, the very environment turned against the invaders. The swamp's humid embrace slowly dismantled.
This scarce water, freely given, represented the enduring spirit of the people and their dedication to the struggle.
Alexander, Hannibal, Caesar, Napoleon. Throughout history, great men have risen and fallen.
The Mongol advance, seemingly unstoppable, met its match in the treacherous terrain. This
Connecting Hưng Đạo brilliant application of decentralized command directly to modern strategic theory reveals the enduring nature of asymmetric conflict. The curriculum emphasizes that the core doctrine remains essential for modern warfare.
The key to the Bạch Dang victory lay in the submerged stakes, a strategy now passed to the next generation through careful study of the maps.
They tried to extinguish our spirit, but even in the darkest hour, the flame of resistance.
When resources are scarce, the preservation of a single grain can determine the future.
By any objective measure, Hưng Đạo belongs in the pantheon of great generals.
The vibrant afternoon light reveals a city defined by its resilience, a truly thriving, independent.
And so the memory of our heroes lives on, reflected in the eyes of the next generation.
Grand Prince Trần Hưng Đạo, the revered shield of Đại Việt, became Đức Thánh Trần, a protective spirit watching over our people.
The Mongol threat, a swirling vortex of brute force, was met by the strategic genius of Hưng Đạo.
Finalizing the comparison, we see how intelligence truly beats raw power. The sling was the ultimate equalizer.
This isn't just a market graph. This is our Mongol army, charting the course for total market dominance. We must strike precisely here.
The battlefield changes when the underdog controls the terms.
Like these stakes, true power lies not just in strength, but in perfect preparation and precise placement.
Strategic patience is essential. You wait, you plan, and then, when the time is right, you accelerate.
The commitment required for total mobilization.
The slow, inevitable effect of attrition. A single drop of water, relentless over time, can erode the hardest stone. The Emperor's grand ambitions were constantly thwarted by the unforgiving terrain and the failure of his supply lines, a weakness Hưng Đạo masterfully exploited.
The twilight deepens, but the legacy of Trần Hưng Đạo remains a guiding light for the ages.
Here, amidst the mist and the rising sun, we remember the cost of victory. The river holds the memory of the fallen.
From Eastern Europe to Japan, the Mongol hordes encountered fierce resistance. Yet, even here, where the fighting was fiercest, nature reclaims its own, a testament to the enduring spirit of this land.
These maps, though damaged by the rain that night, reveal the Duke's desperate strategy to flank the royalist forces at dawn.
Here we see the practical application of terrain as defense. The soldier uses the dense brush and rocks to successfully evade the approaching patrol.
Agility versus mass.
This rusting relic, dredged from the murky waters, stands as the enduring physical evidence of the Mongols' ultimate failure here. The principles of tactical camouflage haven't changed since the days of Hưng Đạo. As you can see, this soldier has—
The Mongol lines stretched for miles, a logistical thread stretched to its breaking point across the arid steppe.
The silent killer, doing Hưng Đạo work.
The Mongol cavalry, unmatched on dry land, now faced an enemy they could not conquer.
Exploiting the momentary weakness during withdrawal.
The 500,000-strong invasion force was simply broken by attrition.
Using massive floating pile drivers, the legions hammered the final stakes into the murky depths, securing the crossing.
The disorganized resistance was a calculated risk, a tempting lure designed to draw the Mongol forces into the dense jungle.
This rapid 180-degree turn marked the sudden reversal of fortune on the water. The weaponized environment striking home. This was the day the river turned to fire.
Nhanh lên! Dọn dẹp khu vực và báo cáo tình hình. Chúng ta không có nhiều thời gian đâu.
Defeated and humiliated, Toran and his remaining guards rode hard for the border, abandoning all hope of reclaiming the throne.
Though centuries apart, leaders like Lê Lợi and General Giáp shared a common vision, meticulously planning every move on the battlefield. As highlighted here, the term People's War is intrinsically linked to historical contexts, particularly the campaigns of figures like Hưng Đạo. From these vibrant terraces, a new era of abundance is born. The fight for resources has been decisively won.
Strategy, like the lotus, rises from the murky depths. a symbol of purity amidst the chaos of conflict.
The fragility of recorded history when separated by language.
The archives are complete, but the knowledge remains elusive. This emptiness is the true cost of our historical omission.
Southeast Asian history, despite its genius, was ignored by Western historiography.
While many heroes are honored here, the mainstream narrative often overlooks figures like Hưng Đạo, quickly moving past their significant legacy.
The legacy of Hưng Đạo, once bold and clear, now hangs by a thread, a whisper against the dust of ages.
We are tasked with correcting the historical record of figures like Hưng Đạo. His true legacy must emerge from the noise.
The flavors we share tonight are more than just food. They are the stories of our ancestors, the legacy passed down through generations.
History is the light that guides the future. Today, a new generation learns the story of those who came before.
As the twilight deepens, the legacy of Hưng Đạo remains.
He deserves his name spoken alongside Hannibal, Napoleon, and Sun Tzu.
The theater of operations that defeated the Mongols 3 times.
A strategist knows that the path to victory is often walked alone, leaving only a trace for history to find. The Vietnamese forces mastered the art of jungle concealment, disappearing completely just as the oblivious Mongol patrol walked by.
This is where we must engage the enemy fleet. Your support here is crucial.
You have my word. We fight as one.
Far from the steppes, the tropical heat became a weapon. It seeped into the heavy armor, turning strength into shivering exhaustion.
The vulnerability of the Mongol Achilles heel.
The peaceful river now, a quiet testament to the battle fought there.
The human cost of imperial overreach. The jungle had defeated the greatest army in the world. Vietnam was proving to be an unsolvable problem.
As this Venn diagram illustrates, Hưng Đạo principles, like people as the root and flexible tactics.
The Battle of Bạch Đằng in 1288 was a decisive victory. Hưng Đạo forces utilized the river's treacherous tides and submerged stakes to destroy the invading fleet.
Testing. Victory was forged, not with steel, but with these humble yet powerful materials.
Before we can compare the contenders, they must first face the ultimate test. A storm unlike any other.
The stone is the focused strategy, resilient against the overwhelming force of the churning ocean.
Change the battlefield.
The fog of war, which Hưng Đạo navigated by changing the environment.
Using simple earthworks and sheer determination, the Viet Minh successfully diverted the river, demonstrating the effectiveness of logistics warfare.
Stripped of supplies, the army withered. This was the true cost of the endless campaign, etched onto the face of every soldier.
Every crossing, every movement is a point of lethal weakness.
Though exiled, the Trần court endures. Their quiet confidence fills this hall, a silent promise of their return.
This map details the precise locations of the ambush. The retreat corridor must be cut off completely.
In the heart of the jungle, communication is everything. A single message can turn the tide of a guerrilla war.
Every location is a potential fortress or ambush point.
Here, in the darkness, patience is not just a virtue. It is the very definition of survival.
This was the result of Hưng Dao's systematic application of pressure. The Mongol forces were shattered and in full retreat.
The principle transcends the specific weapon.
Optimal naval positioning achieved. The third attempt commences as Prince Togan's massive fleet sails confidently into the Bach Dang River.
The invaders unknowingly sail into the shadow of their doom.
The Vietnamese lure ships begin their synchronized turn, executing the crucial bait maneuver with practiced precision.
With the sun blazing overhead, the Great Khan's fleet committed fully to the chase, sailing deeper into the jaws of the trap. The receding tide uncovers the first line of defense, a treacherous field of sharpened stakes waiting for the enemy's approach. This was the moment the divine wind, the kamikaze, struck. The Mongol fleet was annihilated by the storm and the raging fire. This was the overwhelming follow-up strike, a storm of fire raining down upon the invaders, ensuring the defense of the river.
The great fleet, once the symbol of their power, was now nothing but kindling. For the Mongol sailor,
the river returns to normal, the evidence of the massacre concealed once more, though the stakes remain.
With the river secured, General Hưng Đạo shifted his focus to the land. His army surged forward, intercepting the fleeing,
denying the enemy any respite during their flight.
The streets of Hanoi erupt in joy.
He's one of history's most complete military minds. Yet, he remains largely unknown in the West.
The meticulous artistry of the portrait reflects the enduring legacy of Hưng Đạo, one of Vietnam's greatest military strategists.
True strategy is timeless. Carved into this ancient wood is the culmination of 1,000 years of tactical thought.
Persistence is the anvil where the impossible is broken, not by strength, but by relentless effort.
For the first time, the Mongol lines stalled at the Vietnamese border. Then, facing fierce resistance,
The land that sustained the defense.
The enduring symbol of national resistance.
The long struggle was finally over. After years of conflict, the soldiers returned home to the embrace of a grateful nation.
And so, the greatest army the world had ever seen turned north, swallowed by the dust.
The physical embodiment of the military doctrine he established.
We are tracking the movement along the main channel. The sharp bend here dictates the flow into the lower basin, which is where the primary engagement will occur.
We carry the spirit of our ancestors. Their legacy is etched not just in stone, but
they see patience, we see coiled potential. When the moment is right, decisive action changes everything. The retreat from Vietnam marked the beginning of the end. The capital, once vibrant, now languished in decay.
He deserves statues in military museums worldwide. His genius is undeniable.
He stands eternal, a sentinel guarding the past and the future. The tides of history may rise.
The perfect tool for the perfect moment. Halted indefinitely on the northern frontier, the Mongol columns stood as a test to the strategic impasse.
Expertly guided by the Vietnamese forces, the Mongol horses plunged into the prepared mud pit, neutralizing the invaders' main advantage.
This was not a battlefield, but a tomb. The enemy was everywhere and nowhere, and
with this final retreat, the Đại Việt court solidified its independence, a testament to their unwavering unity. Despite the Mongol invasions of 1258, 1285, and 1287, the Đại Việt under...
The fog was a gift, a shroud, allowing the patrol to move undetected through the treacherous marsh.
The high cost of failing to maintain speed and supply.
Cut off and exposed, the Mongol warrior found his advance halted not by steel, but by a splintered spoke and a lack of resources.
General, the regional forces executed the strategy independently. The objective was achieved with minimal losses, and the supply lines are secure.
The first invasion shattered in the mountain snows. The second broke against the desert walls. The final fleet was annihilated at dusk.
They believed the river was safe, unaware of the decisive advantage hidden just beneath the waves. They rode into the pass, leaping behind the memory of their terror. The threat was finally removed.
He stands as a monument to strategic thinking over raw numbers.
The lesson of the past is clear. To succeed today, you must identify and defeat your Mongols.
From the ground, the story felt complex, but rising above it all, the path forward becomes clear.
This ancient tapestry depicts the legendary Bach Dang, where our forces deployed the submerged. When we stand united, no obstacle is too great. This is our moment, our shared future.
For too long it lay hidden, but now, what was forgotten is finally restored. Genius.
Though the heavens weep, he stands resolute. The spirit of Hưng Đạo, unbroken by the elements.
To defeat a superior foe, one must first nullify their strengths. This boiled leather turned the fearsome Mongol arrow into little more than a splinter.
Keep moving. We train hard now so we can fight easy later. Faster, push to the top.
Once the graveyard of the Mongol invasion fleet, this tranquil expanse now symbolizes enduring peace.
The victory secured by Hưng Đạo echoed through the ages, a testament to the enduring spirit of a free people.
When you look at the complexity of the plan laid out here, you begin to appreciate the sheer mental effort required.
His genius deserves to be recognized globally, outside of historical accident.
Under this solemn sky, the legacy of Hưng Đạo endures, a timeless reminder of courage and resilience.
The general's victories were not isolated events. They shaped the very currents of world history.
The river remembers the battles fought here, though the sounds of war have long since faded into the wind.
Everything must come to an end. This is the last fade.
What we leave behind is not etched in stone, but woven into the very fabric of the earth itself.